Peace and love, world. It's about 1:15 a.m. my time. Had a long day. I was supposed to do this podcast a bit earlier, but we here now. I want to welcome y'all to Pressure Politics, where we keep the politics real, direct, straight to the point. No sugarcoating shit. I was gonna put on some political attire, but I decided not to for this first episode. Pressure Politics got conceived a couple months ago, and now I'm just getting to the point where I can get the podcast produced. So for those that don't know me, I'm Slaying Illz. And this first episode, we are going to talk immigration. Primarily because of what's happening in LA right now. I haven't really been watching the news too much. I've been so engulfed in my world. And I seen that it was jumping in LA right now. Protests, riots over immigration. Now I was going to wait until I raised some money, did a proper announcement, but this time is I guess a good time to make the announcement that I am running for governor of California. I sent my paperwork off, my candidacy paperwork off at the beginning of May, and it got sent back. Let me see what the date is on here. May 7th, California Secretary of State, Political Reform Division, said my candidate intention statement form 501 was received and approved. So now I am in the process of raising money to get the campaign officially kicked off by this fall. And seeing what's happening in California right now, it just really, decided now's the time to start this podcast and really start talking politics with you all. So for those that follow me, know my story as a rapper, they know I moved to California in 2009, but I had family roots in California. My grandfather, my mother's father, he moved to Inglewood in the 70s. My mother, she was raised between South America. They're from Guyana, in South America, and she was raised in Guyana most of her life. Then finished up high school in California and left California and joined the military. I was born on a military base, and my life has been shrouded in government, politics. Oftentimes, as being in a military family, I tell people that I didn't see race growing up. I know our parents did. As an adult, you understand, some of the bullshit that's been done in government when it comes to racism and prejudice. But as an Army brat, we hung out with everybody. And also being from Virginia, only place I experienced racism as a kid was off base, going to, one of the regular schools that's not on post. I remember my first spell with racism was in 4th grade. I just moved to Virginia from Germany. There was a little blonde white boy in my class named Dakota. And he called me a nigga, stupid black boy, some shit this motherfucker said. I think I like punched him in his mouth or punched him in his eye or something like that. My feelings about immigration are, I have a solution for immigration that we can do here in America. And because I am first generation on my mother's side, and I have tons of immigrant family members. My mother's an immigrant, grandfather's an immigrant. But I also got deep roots to early America from my father's side. So I'm torn between sometimes being a descendant of this land and being a descendant of other lands. And my experience with immigration over these last few years hasn't really been that good. Living in, let me say this first before we jump into the California side of things. Immigration in California has to work different than what it does in other regions. Simply for the fact on how deep the modern Mexican roots go in California. But areas like Virginia, when I was a teenager, what grade was I in? I was in 9th, 10th grade. I was in Northern Virginia. So people that don't understand what Virginia is, a lot of people think Virginia is just some country bumpkin ass state, and it's not. So we say up south, down north. We're the bottom of the north, the top of the south. And we also on the, we also on the East Coast. So there's different regions of VA. Everybody know about the DMV. DMV stands for DC, Maryland, Virginia. Now, when we say Virginia, we're not talking about the whole state of Virginia. We're talking about the Northern Virginia area. That's Arlington, Fairfax, Alexandria. Y'all might have heard some of these cities in social studies, Loudoun County. Then you get to Central Virginia, which is the 804. And that's where the capital of Virginia is, Richmond, and where a lot of early Virginia and early America things happen. Then you get to the eastern shore of Virginia, further south than the Richmond area, and that's what we call the Tidewater region, the 7 cities, the 757. That's where you get Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Newport News, Suffolk, Hampton, Portsmouth. That's 7. I don't know if that was 7. I don't know if I'm missing anybody. But those are and then you have like, your southern regions, Roanoke, Harrisonburg is further out. So Virginia is a big ass state. And then when you consider West Virginia used to be a part of Virginia, but they seceded from Virginia during the slave days. So Virginia was a massive territory at one point. It's the first legislative body. I'll tell people usually what happens in Virginia happens nationwide. All the politicians currently have to report to DC. No matter what state they're from, they have office at the Capitol. And when it comes to politics, I got involved in the political world with cannabis politics. In 2009, 2010, when I left Virginia, moved to California. This is at the time I was going through my awakening too. I'm watching all these documentaries. We kind of already, was growing up, I was a conspiracy theorist, but this is when I'm really getting into the stuff. And I discovered the lies, just the blatant lies around cannabis and hemp. There's no other way to put it. And when I was in California, I found out that Virginia was actually the first medical cannabis state. Virginia was the first hemp state going back into the 1600s, with George Washington, and even with the colonists, with King George, the colonists had to grow hemp for the European kingdom. So Virginia had an extensive history with cannabis and hemp. They discovered that cannabis and the cannabinoids within cannabis killed cancer cells. So when I'm in California discovering all of this shit, things are just starting to click, and I'm like, wow, we can really bridge the gap between, and really do some good. And in the bullshit, the first cannabis laws in Virginia was on the books in 1979, and we're just now getting recreational and medical pass in the late 20s. So just preposterous to me. I was young, eager, and I thought that my passion would move politics. And I learned quickly that politics is just as controlled as any other major industry. And to play politics, I was going to have to apply pressure. So I got my first experience with all of that in California. If you follow my other podcast, Blunts and Conversations, you might have heard me talking about the difference between California culture and culture in other states. Specifically talking about the protests around cannabis legalization. We fought for cannabis in California, and I only showed up in 2009, but the protests that I participated in were big. But before that, they passed their first bill in 96. So the fights and the protests and everything that led up to that first 96 bill being passed, all the way up to the modern day, California is a major protest state. When they want change, the people of California step out and show up. Unlike other states, we took the fight back to Virginia, and yeah, we did lobby day, but it was only a small handful of people that was showing up for anything political when it came to cannabis. And me being one of those people, I initially brought the legalization fight back to Virginia in 2011 from California. So that was my first real big spiel with politics, and seeing how a small voice can actually make some big change. And from my first email to, I think it was Governor Terry McAuliffe, I was reaching out to, excited. I just moved to California, seen it. We did America's first cannabis nightclub. And being in Virginia, you used to get locked up over this to get you some time, bro. This to get you some time in Virginia back in the day, dog. A C to get you some time back in VA back in the day. So it blew my mind how all of these lies were just being told. And when I start playing the politics, the conversations I start having with these politicians, with our House reps, senators, everybody, just finding out how big of a game politics is. And initially, that made me want to begin my journey into running for high office. People always tell me, well, you should have ran for city council or something like that, but the change that I'm working to make is so monumental, it can only happen from a high power perspective. And that has to be presidential, prime minister level type shit. So this particular governor campaign that I'm moving forward with it was birthed from a presidential campaign and a Senate campaign. Now, each time I set up these campaigns, well, the first presidential campaign, it came about when I was in school, college. We had to do a project, a video project, about if we was president. And I did this whole little spiel called the Black House. And my angle was changing. There's no legal reason or logical reason why you have to be 35 to be president. There are people, if the government thinks you're mature enough to go kill and die for this country at the age of 18, if you can demonstrate certain leadership qualities, I believe 18 to 21 you should be able to run for high office in this country. Excuse me. I petitioned it, wrote Congress, did the whole nine, and we worked to get the age of candidacy changed. Didn't happen, but that was my first political push as far as high office and running for high office. I took the school project and turned it into a real life campaign. I raised a little bit of money when I was young, early 20s, and it didn't really get the traction that I hoped. Years later, we play politics. We get cannabis passed in Virginia. We did some good political work in Colorado. We did some good political work in Kentucky. We were on the forefront of a lot of their cannabis legalization efforts. Not just me, but the organizations and the people in the cannabis industry that I deal with, you know, they were very, very ingrained into the politics. So while I'm back in Virginia, I left Cali in 2000 into 2010. Went back to Virginia from 2011 to till today. The mission was to get Virginia legalized for hemp. We got hemp legalized in 2014. I was one of the first hemp cultivators. Did all the hemp research with the universities. I worked with West Virginia University on some hemp research. And all of these things, elements of the cannabis industry on us trying to make the world better, it just kept making sense to get extremely active in politics, because I either have to be extremely rich to where I can finance the political machine, because ultimately that's what the American political structure is right now. It's a corporatized version of what our politics should be. I would either have to be that, or I would have to hold a seat of high office. And when you look at all the conspiracy theories, quote unquote, a lot of them aren't conspiracy anymore, and they're not theories anymore. But yeah, the American political structure is controlled. High office is controlled. Why did the people vote for Al Gore and we got George Bush? You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. We'll get into all the conspiracy elements of the politics later. I'm just giving y'all my political background before we get into my immigration point of view and policy. But, you know, when I got into the cannabis industry and found out the power and potential of hemp, the first business we started was called the Foundation Hope, and HOPE stands for Hemp Offers People Everything. And within the Foundation Hope, we were supposed to be an awareness company and really be given the information on how amazing hemp and cannabis is and the solutions that we can do as a populace to positively progress our populations. It's all around the world. Fuel, fiber, medicine, literally everything. This house where I'm living in, this glass. Well, we can't make glass out of hemp, but we can make cups out of hemp, hemp plastic, this wood right here. A tree that took probably hundreds of years got cut down to make this little table, when the hemp wood is much more durable, stronger, easier to grow. We can grow more of it per acreage. It just makes sense. It makes all the sense. Then you look into the history of cannabis prohibition, hemp prohibition, and the industries that fought against it: big oil, big pharma, big paper, big sugar, all the industries that can't compete against hemp fought to criminalize it. So when all of this, you're learning all of this, and as a young black man, I come from a government family. I could have joined the Army, I could have joined the Marines, I could have joined the Navy, but I was a badass. I got in trouble as a teenager, and now I'm seeing my contribution and following my family's, footsteps. So my father served, mother retired, got other family that served. I can partake in the political world. So I put my Senate campaign together. I think this was 2020. And I spoke to the delegate that sponsored our cannabis bill, our recreational bill in 2018. And he advised me, he pretty much said, bro, and he always kept it real with me. He just said, bro, you're going to be running against an incumbent. You're a young black man from Virginia. Focus on the business stuff you're doing. The homeless project that you're working on. Focus on that kind of stuff. Politics, don't even start the headache for yourself. So I listened to him. I dropped the notion for Virginia Senate. And I wish I didn't, because during that time we had Governor Northam, Democratic governor in, and we did amazing work with Northam. So one of the key things that we did was we got Northam to agree, I'm not sure if it was signed in yet or not, but 30% of the cannabis money was going to go to some sort of fund for the black community of Virginia. When we talk social equity, that was a major, major key that's been argued in every state for legalization. And especially for Virginia, 30%, that's almost 50%. But 30% was major, and that was pretty much, for me, that was a play on reparations. And we'll talk reparations and all that on another episode. Maybe we'll get into that one on this one. But that was a play for reparations, and Virginia more or less admitting it's the first slave state, bro. They took us on fucking field trips to Jamestown in elementary school, bro. We're ziplining through Jamestown. They had zip lines in Jamestown. Same trees that my ancestors, a lot of y'all ancestors hung from. They treated it as a fucking fun park. So for me, that was a major, major, probably the most major victory that I've ever accomplished in cannabis politics. But then the election season happens. We get the current governor, forgot his name, I haven't been in Virginia the last couple years. Republican governor though. And he came in and changed up some shit. We lost 30% to the black community. It went to another program. We didn't get everything that we wanted for cannabis legalization. We didn't get the amount of plants we were advocating for. There's a lot of shit. They gave us 4 plants of 1 ounce, 2 mature, 2 immature plants. When we say that, we mean 2 plants that got bud on them, 2 plants that don't got bud on them. And that was bullshit. But just looking at the way the politics went, it's so hard and difficult to get people to participate in politics in Virginia. So So one of the things that pissed me off is like, all right, we spent all these years fighting for politics to be a certain kind of way when it comes to cannabis in Virginia, and then after we do all the hard work, you got all these people coming out the woodwork getting active. People starting to bring in 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds at a time now, and not even just black folks, some regular ass white people. People like, nigga, where you get these plugs from? Like, you ain't never had the gas. Like, I was selling weed to you, and now you bringing in 100 pounds, and you like square. These dudes be square. So seeing how just the whole shit turned for Virginia, they didn't listen to me. I told them this was going to happen. I was the second person to address the House in Virginia when we had the conference. I was working directly with the former Secretary of Treasury on the issue, and he was the second in line. He was the first guy on the issue next to the governor. So he would report back to the governor on certain things when it comes to, you know, cannabis legalization thing. And yeah, my proposals were very ambitious, but I stood and still stand on the fact that I believe Virginia should have led the nation in the strongest, most progressive cannabis laws. We won't be seeing the shit show that we have today with national cannabis. But all of that's to say that living in the DC area, the DC area is inflated with immigration. My first real spill with it when I moved to Lorton, I went to Hayfield High, or Hayfield Secondary. And this is when we start seeing the El Salvadorians getting to coming out here. You know, MS-13 was real big. 18th Street was out there a little bit, but we started getting hella Latinos. I don't know if that's the proper term to describe the whole group of Spanish people. I don't even know if Spanish people are the right term, but y'all know what I'm saying. But this is a diverse range of Latino people coming in to work the construction jobs that was popping up all throughout the DC metropolitan area. And that's when we start seeing some of the gang violence. Northern Virginia is like the good part of Virginia, so there wasn't really a lot of gang shit out there too much. But during this time, that's when you start seeing gangs pop up out from VA, and then you get the international gangs popping in. I lived out in Woodbridge for about a few years ago, like 2023. And the immigration is so crazy. It ain't even just the Latinos no more. It's immigrants from everywhere, bro. Somalia, Japan, Europe, everywhere. And the experience that I had out there when it comes to shopping, bro, I hated going to Walmart out there. That's why I stopped going to Walmart. Bro, the immigrants being there, they be treating this shit like it's their country. Had the Walmart looking all fucked up. But the one thing that got me, and this is where I start really forming my immigration policy, when I start thinking about the politics if I'm going to run for office. I go to the store, and the immigrants be rude as fuck to me. They be nice to everybody, all the white people before me. But me, young, African American man, I'm urban, you know, I be in my suits and shit sometimes. That's the only time that they don't be disrespectful and rude, is when I'm dressed up, got my tie on and shit. But when I'm just dressed like I dress, bro, I had to at the 7-Eleven. I remember, because I grew up in the area, so I remember the 7-Eleven being different. Camera stopped, but I remember 7-Eleven being different. When I used to live out there as a teenager. I'm back as a grown man. We got the immigrants working up in this motherfucker. Niggas from the African niggas and the Indian niggas. And some of the Indian niggas be cool. They be friendly. But to be a lot of these niggas that just be on bullshit. So this motherfucker speaking to everybody else super friendly. I get up to the motherfucking counter. He don't say shit to me. And I had to really check him on some real life shit. I'm like, bro, what would your mother say to you acting like this, bro? Like, I said hi, and I spoke, good morning, and you just nothing. And I turned up a little bit on him, and I went into my spiel about, bro, you only in this country because of the African American struggle and the African American plight. It's our civil rights laws that we fought for and our ancestors fought for that affords for you and your people to come over here and take advantage of our system. So the fact that you got the nerve, the audacity, the gall to be disrespectful to me, when it's my people's plight, for the reason why you can even be over here working behind this counter, sending money back to your people. It's like, bro, you need to show some respect, bro. Like, good morning. Like, is that how they raise y'all back in your country? Well, you don't speak to people that speak, you know what I'm saying? Even outside of that, you're a customer service representative, my nigga. I don't give a fuck what you feel personally about black folk. You a customer service representative for the 7-Eleven Corporation, and you need to speak to every customer. How you doing today, sir? So going through that shit a couple times. Went to this one little Mexican spot. No, it was a Peruvian spot. But it was Mexicans working in the Peruvian spot. And I forgot what the fuck happened. But the main nigga was just mad disrespectful. And you know what I'm saying? They had to give him the same spiel. They had to get his spiel to Asians. It's like, how dare y'all take advantage of the laws that my people fought for and come over here and be disrespectful to us? How dare you establish your businesses in our neighborhoods, take advantage of our people's dollar? I don't know why black folk don't set up corner stores and certain things like that in our neighborhoods. I can't give you the answer on that. But the fact that our community affords for you to put your family through college and all of that shit that y'all be doing, and you got the nerve to disrespect us. So for a while, I start getting a bit Donald Trumpish when it comes to immigration policy. And for me, I think I have a strong standing on that. Even, my perspective has shifted a bit. But even when I was feeling a bit, aggressive toward the immigration, because I'm frustrated, about my experience as an American citizen here now. Like, fuck it. Snatch them all up, send them back to where they come from, nigga, if they ain't. You know what I'm saying? Most of my family immigrated, from my mother's side, immigrated from South America, Guyana. And a lot of them served the military. My mother, one of them. My mother, she came over here at 16, and 19, she joined the Army. And she stayed for 20. My mother, to help family get over here, and got them in the Army, got them in the Navy. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm like, all right, as an immigrant, one way to prove your loyalty to the American flag is to join the service, defend the country, play your role, whether you do your 4 years or you stay 20. And I know, a lot of people like that, because I'm Army brat, so I know a lot of people's families, they immigrated over, joined the service, and they served. They did 20. Some more than 20. So I just started thinking, but all my family didn't join the service. Some of my people had to go through it. Some of my people got, that got deported. Paperwork won't right. So, I had to start being a bit more, I don't want to say empathetic, but understanding, if you would, to the immigrant situation. And like I was saying, when you talk about California immigration, you have to speak on it on totally different terms than you speak about it everywhere else, because we're talking primarily Mexican immigration right now. ICE is snatching up Mexicans in Cali. ICE ain't going after the Russians and the Asians, and they might go catch them a couple, but they not focused on them. They focused on the Mexicans that's over here illegally. And it's fucked up, because now we're gonna get into the history of Mexico a little bit, and it's a twofold conversation for me on this one too. So y'all hang with me. But California is Mexico. When I left VA, I'm used to seeing black people at black and white folks everywhere. You see your Latinos and shit. But they wasn't that prevalent out there at one point. I get to California, all I see is Mexicans. I'm engulfed in Mexican culture. And for me, I love the Mexican people. I love the Mexican culture. I haven't had too many bad experiences with them. Being in California, a lot of them held me down, took care of me, made sure I was good in the hood where I couldn't be good in the hood with my own people. Did some good business with me, put me in, a lot of good rooms, and I made some good money with the Mexican people. I dated one Mexican girl in 2018. She was from East LA. And she was a darker skinned Mexican. So dating her, I found out that, it's racism within the Mexican community. The lighter skinned Mexicans be acting iffy with the darker skinned Mexicans. So that shit was weird to me. And then I dated 2019, 2020, I dated a girl. She was half Mexican, half Puerto Rican. So her whole little dynamic was fucked up, because the way, I don't know why the Puerto Ricans and the Mexicans got their own little thing with them, but apparently you don't want to call Puerto Rican Mexicans, you don't want to call Mexican Puerto Rican. And I learned some things through that dynamic. Her father, he didn't like black dudes. He wasn't like racist toward me. Like, she was able to invite me to family events and shit like that, and he was cool. But he throw a little black joke here and there, thinking it's funny and shit. But the way he felt, he was cool in my face. But the way he would talk after I would leave and shit, she would tell me like, he don't fuck with black people. I was dating this Hmong girl. People that know about the Hmong people, Asians, they got Chinese ancestry and shit. I was dating this Hmong girl, and she was telling me just how like her father hated the fact she jumped on the road with a nigga. And I told her, like, bro, we could never, like, really be together long term, because, like, I'm a family dude. If we gonna have children, your father would never accept my child. She on some, yeah, he would. He had to see the baby first and blah, blah, nah. He would never accept that child in his heart, like how a grandfather should, you know. So, and he immigrated here. Him and his mama immigrated, you know. I don't understand why there's such a disparity between Mexicans and black people. I'm gonna say African Americans right now. African and Indigenous American, that's what I'm gonna say. I don't understand, because, as I say, Indigenous American, all the indigenous populations around the world are deeply melanated black folk, and it's no difference from Mexico. When you look at a lot of the Mexican culture and a lot of the African American, Indigenous American culture, we damn near the same people. So I don't understand, like, because we ain't got that beef back on East. It ain't like Latinos versus black people out there. Like, a lot of my best friends are Spanish from back in Virginia. So we just don't have that. We don't have that gang culture. You know, we don't got the neighborhood. We ain't got the colors and all of that shit. Here we got, you know, it's gangs and it's beef and this shit happens back in them states, but we don't have that culture. I did a little time back in the day, like 2010, back in up in Northern California. Bullshit ass situation. Something I didn't do. So just being African American, going through the shit still today, you know, it's my first run-in with police corruption. We'll go into that story another day though. But my bunkie was an older Mexican man. I think he was affiliated from some of the stories he was telling. And he took care of me. He made sure I was good. And I also shared the unit with two skinheads, as you would call them, white nationalists. They had transferred in from San Quentin. And they took care of me. They made sure I was, like, straight, like I was cool. I ain't coming here cause no problems. I ain't trying to, oh, I'm from here and trying to, you know, it's a difference. So, like, East Coast Southern niggas, East Coast and Southern niggas is different than West Coast niggas. You know what I'm saying? Especially, like, West Coast affiliated LA niggas is just not even just LA niggas, I say SoCal niggas. I'm not saying this in a bad way, but we different. You know what I'm saying? LA niggas is gonna talk to you a certain kind of way if you out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? And the gang shit is so prevalent out there. You know, everybody kind of like always on edge and shit. And I just, you know, we just different. You know, we talk different. We act different. And I was cool. I ain't going there causing no issues. So, like, when I think about when I have situations like that go down, and they told me, like, if this was back San Quentin, it couldn't have been the same situation because of the politics that they play in the jail system. But had those type situations happen, and it gives you a different perspective on shit. You know what I'm saying? Being in the heart of LA, dealing with the Mexican girls as a black man, you know, and then being out in the community with her, it can be dangerous. You know, just with the way the LA culture is, the gang culture and shit, that shit can be dangerous. But, you know, everything was all love and all respect. So, seeing what's happening, for me, it's mind-boggling I understand that they're proud to be Mexican. They're proud of who they are, and that's why they're flying the Mexican flag. But you are fighting to stay in America, so you can't fly the flag of another country in the country you're trying to be in. That's one. I'm gonna just address that flat out. You gotta find a different way to express your anger, because those are war actions right there. You know what I'm saying? Flying the flag of another nation in another nation is an act of war. Ultimately, it can be taken that way. Hopefully, our government doesn't take it that way unless they are declaring war. If Mexico got some motherfuckers over here and they declaring war, then that's what it is. But if that's not what it is, y'all just kind of got to be aware of that. I come from a rebel state, you know what I'm saying? So I like to see pushback against government corruption, especially when they're fucking with people's families and livelihoods. I do believe that the LAPD is getting a taste of their own medicine right now. My thoughts on policing, and I think humanity can reach a day where we won't need police forces. Some of the policies that if I get office, I intend to pass, the cause and effect action of those policies will afford for society to exist to where police won't be needed, or in a very, very limited capacity, I would say. And I think it's a lesson that the LAPD can learn right now. I gotta do a little bit more research into what's going on. Like I said, I just caught wind of everything. Do I think so from my brief understanding of what I looked at, this man has been here for forever. They went and snatched him up. And he an honest working man, loved in the community. They went and snatched him up. And the community ain't going for it, because now ICE is popping up. And the thing about LA is so territorial, bro. Like, and it's the land of fuck the police, nigga. That's where NWA dropped that record. That's a rebel record. You know what I'm saying? LA is where all the people that wasn't going for the bullshit in Virginia, that wasn't going for the bullshit in Mississippi and South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and all these other slave states, the ancestors, the children of the children of the children of the people that first landed there, as far as black folks, was the people that was like, man, fuck that slavery shit. You know, so the rebel spirit, the rebellion energy is high in California amongst a lot of people. The Asian people that made their way there are the people that was like, fuck their governments, fuck the bullshit their government was on, and they came to LA, you know. So when you got a police force that the people already don't fuck with pushing in like that, it's already gonna cause issues. I think the immigration policy is flawed, extremely flawed. There's a better way. I think there should be, you know, of course California has to protect itself, protect the citizens. me running as governor of California, have to consider, can really consider these things now. But there's a way, for the people that's genuinely coming here to work and change their lives, there's a way that we can establish proper immigration. I think through the establishment of eco-villages, these villages I think should be everybody's way of life, but specifically for an immigration solution. Building communities, sustainable communities, where the immigrants can be housed while they get, if they're fleeing as refugees, we can give them immediate housing and comfortable, clean dwelling spaces that are ran off solar energy, wind power. The water that they're utilizing is being produced and recycled within the community. And by establishing these network of eco-villages, we remove the strain from the taxpayer dollars. These villages aren't that expensive to produce with the current budget of California, and a lot of the money that's being wasted in other shit can be put into these eco-villages. These have been the solutions that we've been proposing for homelessness, so we'll also incorporate these within the homeless sector of California, because it is preposterous. It's preposterous what homelessness looks like in California. It's insane. Yeah, we need to work on relations with, one of the issues with the Mexican-California relationship as bordering territories is drug trafficking, cartel stuff. Well, I'm not going to say cartel because I don't know if it's just the cartel. I just know there's a lot of motherfucking shit happening across the border, And as public officials, it is the duty to address those issues. But I think for me, my way of governing and the way to establish laws is to create a society in where we don't need organized crime. Even organized criminals, like when you talk to these men, they're family men. They got hearts, they got love. But the world that they had to come up in, they were little innocent kids as well. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of fucked up shit happened to them. They seen a lot of fucked up ass shit from an early age. A lot of them was forced to body niggas as kids, bro. Like, and this is where I think the disconnect happens, because you get public officials in office that don't understand, some of this shit. And you get caught up in this world, this underworld, bro. And they own it on a different level than what, I've participated in. But I know some people, I know some stories. And we even look at some of the military stories. Some of the shit these soldiers that gotta go through, that's what they are. They soldiers. They living in a war zone. The life they live is war. They gotta do what the warlord says, or their family's at risk. You know what I'm saying? But if we can create a society, one, where money isn't needed for everybody to live good, because ultimately we don't need money for shit. Once we remove the monetary incentive for housing, food, electricity, transportation, a lot of the reasons why people would even be active in the underworld is going. Because working these jobs is bullshit. Let's not sit here in front. The economy is fucked. People with degrees are, they lied to us. They said, oh, go to school, get your degree in this. Woo. And motherfuckers is baristas. Motherfuckers is Uber Eating. And Instacarting. So we're not going to sit here and pretend like the economy is something to be proud of. The jobs people are working aren't jobs that even come close to being able to afford a home, raise a family. And I think that's one of the things that Americans have taken a major flaw in, is trying to put some sugar and sprinkles on the reality of what our economy is. And I believe that is how we start addressing the issue of organized crime on all levels, small to major. And we do it in a way that's respectful. We don't have to go to war. We don't have to kill motherfuckers. They don't got to kill motherfuckers. And we work together ultimately to make a better world for each other and everybody else. So as an African American man, seeing what's happening over there in Cali right now, as governor, and this is where it's hard, because this is pressure politics, bro. Like, do I put on the front? If I'm governor of California, ultimately I'm president of California, and law enforcement response has to be appropriate to what's happening, and sometimes force is required. I could do some more research on the situation. I'm not sure who threw the first rock. A lot of times these situations have underlying agitators involved. It's not always genuinely the protesters that start the violence and the bullshit. So it's a lot of things and factors to consider. But I do think that California ultimately can do better in its immigration relationship. And you gotta be sensitive to the fact that the Mexican people, they've been there since the 1500s. Even before the 1500s, you have residents of ancestral lands going back from the Olmecs to the Aztecs to the Mayans. So you gotta tread that water very, very carefully, because so much of the land that was indigenous land, it was ultimately conquered. But if you ignite that spirit, if you ignite that energy, as an African American man, I can understand. And I hope this opportunity can be used to, because I've seen some of the videos and they have some solidarity of all races out there. Black folk, white folk, Asians is all out there standing with them. So I hope that the Mexican community can extend the love that they share amongst each other to us as well. I believe black folks and Mexicans can be an amazing unity, amazing brotherhood, amazing sisterhoods. And as we stand with them, I hope they stand with us in our plight, in our struggle against our government. That's pressure politics. It's 2:16 a.m. I'm about to go lay it down, y'all. Peace and love.